Hello my friends, my name is Irvin, also known as Kobu Man. What we have here is a 3D printer by the name brand of Anycubic. I never owned the 3D printer, so I decided to buy one. I know this is just a box, but I'll show you the specs right here and possibly a picture over here so you guys kind of get an idea of what it is that I've bought. Never had one, never owned one, don't have any experience with it. So I'm going to try to put it together and see how it works, and I'll show it to you as well, how it looks like, how we can assemble it. I purposely looked for one that doesn't take a whole lot of time. So hopefully that's the case. I'm just gonna open it up, see what's inside. I'm gonna take one thing out at a time so you can see. I'm gonna start doing that while I talk. And I don't know what to expect when it comes to the building. I don't know what to expect when it comes to performance. I don't know any of this, guys. So yes, I always say this, I'm always here for you guys if you have any questions. So feel free to ask them and I'll be glad to answer them to the best of my knowledge. Knowledge. And but I'm not an expert in 3D printers, so just keep that in mind. But I'll be glad to answer any questions related to this specific printer, I guess. So I took the first styrofoam cover off, and here are a bunch of things. Here is a manual. It's by Kossel user manual. I guess that's the type of this printer. So it's going to be one of those vertical printers, as you can see here. Obviously, it's a user manual, and it's by Anycubic. I'll put a link in the description in case you guys are interested. It doesn't look too complicated, but we'll see if I can put this together, see if I can pull this off, and I'll definitely follow these instructions. Definitely not one of those things where I'm not gonna need to read the manual, but no, in this case I definitely need to read the manual. Oh my god, look at all these parts. I have no idea what this is. It looks like some tools, some kind of a lube, I suppose, some kind of a metal bracket, and that appears to be a belt of some sort, some zip ties. I'm gonna put that aside and see what that's about later. Oh boy. Oh man, I was afraid of this. There's more tools in here, and there's some wires and some more washers. Man, I really didn't want to put this together, to be honest. This is just a power cable. Here's a ruler for some reason. Here's a spatula. This just helps you pry things off after you print it. This is filament that came with it. Oh man. Oh man. Okay, so this is the filament that you use to print things out. Here's the power supply. So sort of like in computers, you need a power supply. Oh man, I was afraid of doing this. I really don't want to do any like electrical like stuff, but I guess I'll have to do it. I have plenty of these cables, which is great. I know this one's not gonna work because this is a European style, and it does have a switch back here to switch it on to 130 instead of 230 volts. So that's great. I'm going to switch that right away so I don't have any issues later. So I'm just gonna flip the switch, basically. That's all there is to it. See, now it says in 115. So this one is Anycubic Plus version of this Plus. And this is just a USB cable. Kind of looks like a printer cable that you would use. And this here is pre-assembled printer nozzle with the arms. Anyways, this is what goes up, this is what goes around and prints, if you're not familiar with printers of this kind. And here is, I know actually what this is. I saw a video of this. This is a 3D printer accessory. What it does, you attach it to the nozzle, and the printer actually, it calibrates the level of the plate, which is this. It calculates the level of the plate, so whenever you print, because it's plastic, you want to make sure that everything is at level, otherwise plastic will just, you know, be crooked. So you put this on, and then it calibrates the printer, so it knows exactly how high each point is. So that's really cool. I'm glad that that came. Maybe that's why I bought the Plus version. This is some kind of motor. I guess this moves all those arms around. so that's cool. I like motors. Here's what I suspect, and it is an LCD panel. Basically allows you to control your printer from the outside. There are more motors I can see in this thing, but let me just kind of pull this out. I don't know what these are for. I mean, I know what they are, they're gloves, but here's another adapter of some sort. So here's the rail. I'm gonna take the rails out first. So, up and down. You guys know what's up with this. Parts of the rail, up and down. It's lubed. Well, now we know what the gloves are for. I'll have to read the instructions. There's a wire here. Don't know what that's for. That's the last rail. I don't know what this is for. I'm gonna put it aside. This is just assembly. I'm assuming this is the top part. Uh-oh. Let me keep this aside here while I take this out. Is this removable? Okay. This is the heat plate. This is where things get printed on top of. I mean, I suppose packaging is pretty good in here. I found the nut and screw there. So this is the bottom of it. Kind of looks like a PC when it comes to stuff. It does have a sort of like a motherboard, if you will. I don't even know if it's called that. But anyways, hopefully it's just plug and play. So this is what the final product should look like. This is obviously the shape of it, but this is where limit switch is supposed to go. Linear slides, and we got carbon fiber tube that are these basically arms here. Then we got print head, which is the whole assembly here, and there's the nozzle. And we got the belt connector, which is there. We got a feed pipe, which is that. And this is what that ladder motor is for. It's called the extruder motor. We got cooling fan, which is part of the assembly for the head. We got the power supply, we got the power switch, and we got the knob display screen, so the display goes there. Filament holder, where we just kind of let it hang, so it's going to just roll like that. And then we got the belt. So let's get to it, and hopefully we can get it done properly. So the first thing we need to do is to install linear rails onto the aluminum beams, which are these. This is where we're going to use our gloves for, because they're greased. So we're going to attach them to these as per instructions, and we'll see how well that goes. It should be fairly straightforward. They already see a little bit of grease on there. That's all right. We're going to put our gloves on. We're going to make it happen. So with so many screws available and so many parts, I have to get myself organized. So I took all the screws out. They're all individually packed. We got S1 through S6, so I just have them ready there. And I'm going to keep things separate here. Some tools that I may need. I'm going to keep the wires on the side, and I'm just going to grab them whenever I need them. For the first section of this is what we need. This is the bottom part. We have that over there, and it's called bottom frame. Then we parts pack 1 pieces, which is S1. So we're going to need to use S1, which I actually have over there. We're going to use that, the pack S1. And then we got aluminum beams, 3 pieces, linear plus, which are 3 pieces of what I have. And then we're going to deal with this other pulley parts of it stuff. So let's get to that. We know we need S1 for this other part of it. What we're going to do, we're going to attach those greasy rails to the aluminum part of it. And then we're going to use these M3/8 sluts with this type of nut, which is the nuts that are in there in the S1. And they're going to follow the directions on how to do that. And then we're going to insert it inside of the bottom frame. And then that should be the result of it. I'm not sure if this tool is for this, but this is what I have handy. I'm going to use it right now. 2, 4, 6. So that's 6 there. I'm going to close this and put it away because I don't want to lose it. The reason I'm doing it like this is so that way I can keep track. That's 2, 4, 6. I got my rail screws connected. I think they're supposed to be like kind of evenly distributed. I could have moved one here over here, but doesn't matter. I think it's good enough. Just make sure that this doesn't slide off, man. This thing, once you pop off these spacers that are at the end of these, basically prevents this thing from sliding off. So that's incredibly important. Okay, now I'm going to attach it to this, and hopefully this goes well, to this aluminum guide, if you will. Yeah, these things are basically designed so they just fall into these gaps. So these little nuts. Once you have them in there, then you tighten them per instructions. Install the rails and 3 aluminum beams respectively and tighten the screws and T-nuts. Now, don't go crazy with these nuts. So just kind of tighten them. I mean, this is aluminum, so it's soft. So just kind of a little bit of a tighten. Each one of them, just kind of take your time. Again, of course, I'm not an expert on this, but logic dictates just to go light first, because I work on cars, on my own cars, you know. Go light first and then go back around and retighten them. So far the instructions are pretty good. Now we have a first rail install on the aluminum beam. That's what I'm going to do for these other 3 as well, and then I'm going to get back to you once I'm done with that. So with our rails assembled, the next part is to insert them into the bottom base, which we're going to do in here. And then the instructions say to tighten these screws that are on the left. So there's total 6 screws identical to this on each side. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to insert the rails and we're going to make that happen. Looks like the longer part, which is this, goes to here, and the shorter part goes up, which is this. So this goes down and it's going to face up. It's going to go up like so. So the way it is, we want the rail to move on the inside to carry our what I call a spider contraption thing. I'm going to call it spider contraption. Okay, so I found that yes, you need to loosen them, but I don't know if you can see this. I think you can. This is supposed to slide in the rail as well. You see that other washer on the other is supposed to slide in. So I'm supposed to like adjust it just right so it goes in. Oh, okay, I see. So here's the thing. This washer here is uneven size. So this is why if you're having trouble, you have to turn it. That's the wrong way, but if you turn it once more, it turns towards the skinny side, which actually fits in the rail. So you have to make sure both of these are adjusted like that, otherwise it won't go in. There, I just adjusted them, so they should go in just fine now. Let's see if my theory is correct. And there it is. I'll take it. With the same tool that we used for the rails, I'm not gonna go crazy on it. It does have to be tight because it will shake and move. So with the base and the rails assembled, next thing we have to do as part of the step is to attach the top part of it, which is done identical to the bottom, except it's just one screw. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to attach it to these rails. So just like the bottom base, make sure that your washers are facing properly. Make sure that the skinny end is pointing as so and not the fat end. Make sure they're loose enough so that it slides over. This part goes up, the part that screws goes up, and this screw goes down. That's how you can orient it properly. So make sure that this is the top, like facing. See, this is a perfect example of what happens if you don't orient your washer properly in the first place. It's just going to get stuck like that. It's not going to insert. One part of the washer is thicker while the other one is skinnier. You need the skinnier side. So before you tighten these screws, make sure that it's flush like this. This can go actually further down on the rail itself, but you want it to be flush like that. So you don't want it to go down like that. You want it to stay flush and then tighten it. So for the next part of it, we're going to install these end stoppers, which are these. They are attached to the top of the printer, and you'll see it on the rail. I'll show you here in a second. And we've already attached the top piece, so we're done with that. For this, we're going to use bag S2. The great thing also I've noticed is this, everything is labeled perfectly here of what you need to do, which I'm really impressed by these instructions. I'm going to take these end stoppers, and they're going to be attached at the ends, which are actually right here. There are 3 total, so 1, 2, and then 3 over there. I will show you the assembly here momentarily. So we're using the S2 baggie with these screws in it, and here's a detailed part on how it needs to be done. So we're going to secure the 3 end stops to the top limit block, and we have to make sure that the direction is correct, and it has to be like this, top end of it, and there are 2 screws that screw into it, which screws into this base of it. I'll show you everything. And you're supposed to run it back through the aluminum rails, or aluminum posts, if you will. Here's the switch, and this little part came from it, or came with it, and I'm assuming this goes in here. So according to this picture, the switch is supposed to face down, which makes sense. So it's a cutoff switch, and it's supposed to face down. This is a really good picture of it. So I'm trying to get you a really good picture, good angle of this, because this thing is so tall, it's really hard to film. So it's going to go like this. There are 2 holes there. I hope you can see it from the angle. I'll try to angle as much as I can. And it's going to sit like this. And then wire goes through up there, or over here. I don't know how to figure that out. Maybe through this part, and then it goes again down. Let's do that. So here's what's supposed to look like. You're supposed to run the switch down here, and then you run it underneath through the aluminum rail. There's a gap underneath this wheel, sort of, and then you run it down the rail as well. And for that to help you, you'd actually use this, what I thought it was solder, but it's actually not. It's just a wire that helps you guide. So when you start off putting the wire through this tube, you use this to guide it down. And then afterwards, you can guide the wire in every which way. You have zip ties, and you'll see how that goes. Anyways, you make sure that the wire comes out like this. And now we're going to put that connector back on it. It says left HE. So I'm assuming left is hot. Oh boy, I hope I'm not making a mistake here. Anyways, you slide it in like that, then it clicks in, it locks in, and then the other one like so. So with the end stop switches installed, the next thing we have to do is install our print head and the belt. So for that, we're going to need our print head, which is this spider looking thing, and we're going to need a belt, which I have over there. I'll show you the belt for sure, and S3 pack, which comes with these screws and looks like some of the springs that we have to use as part of this. So S3, installing the Linear Plus version of the print head. This pulley version is like the other model. I have the Plus version, so we're going to install this one. First thing we have to do is secure the belt connectors to the Linear Plus slider, which is this. Remember the sliders we installed? We're going to attach them to that. So each arm is going to have attached Linear Plus print head we don't have to worry about this. We don't have this because I have the plus version. So we're just going to attach it directly to that, which should be done with 4 screws that come in S3 package. So let's get to it. I'll try to get a really good angle for you guys. This came with the contraption, so I'm going to leave that here just to kind of have it so that my the whole contraption is not actually leaning on the components. So keep in mind, this screw, I actually had to get it going with this little tool in order to actually come out. So it doesn't freely come through this part of it. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of weird. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. They are the correct screws for sure. I guess if you have somebody to help you out, that helps. See if I can get one screw going. I think it caught. Never force anything. See, I'm going very gently here. I think that one caught. So I'm going to get another one going just to keep it balanced because it keeps getting out of whack. Going to get another one. Never tighten all the way until you make sure that you're aligned. Anytime you work on something like this, or anything really in life, never go all the way when you have multiple screws holding on single item. I learned this working on the cars, is that things don't align properly, nor can you tighten things all the way on each end properly, or even distribution of force, if you try to do it like one at a time. So tightening one screw all the way right away is just really dumb. It's a really dumb thing. It's okay if you make that mistake. I've made that mistake before. Just make sure that you have all the screws. See, now they're all in there and they're more or less aligned. So now I have to do just gently kind of go cross sections here. And especially this part, I would not recommend going hard on this. So here's the part where we connect the belt so that the whole contraption can move. These are the instructions, and you know, I'm gonna be honest, it looked very confusing to me at first, but it's actually pretty straightforward as long as you follow these steps. 1, 2, 3, and then if you have to adjust, you can do so as well. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the first thing we got to do actually is take the belt, and this is how it's kind of similar to cars here, and attach it starting here. Let me get you a little better zoom in action there. So there we go. So what I'm going to do is take the belt and I'm going to loop it here so it's hooked to this part of it here, and then it's going to go down to the motor, and let me get that angle of that. You can see where the motor is. So it's going to go run through that, and then it's going to run back up all the way up here, and then it's going to go over this pulley on top. I'll show you. It's going to go and run over that pulley up top, and it's going to run down from the pulley, and then it's going to come back down here and then attach itself again, and then if there's extra I clip it off and then move on to the other one. I know it's confusing, but yeah, it's actually pretty doable, and I encourage you that you try it. So from here, I'm going to run it, hook it onto the motor, so loop like this. Man, God knows I've changed so many serpentine belts on a car. About this much. Okay, so I'm gonna clip it there. Man, I hope that's correct. Otherwise, I've just screwed up my printer. So we have the first belt installed. As you can see, you start from here and you go all the way down, and then you bring it back up this way through this little gap area over your pulley, bring it back down and notch it back here. If we need to tension the belt, which I actually will, you can use one of these little clamps as instructed. So it's about 3 centimeters below that it's supposed to be. After the cut off the extra, and in order to fasten to the belt, users may use the pliers to install the tension spring. There it is. Okay, that should be good. Okay, that's a good tension there. So I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to do the same thing for the other ones. So when I'm done, I'll be back and we'll do the next step. Okay, we're done with belts here. The next thing is S4, which is the LCD or display screen, if you will, that we're going to install here. The main thing to worry about is that it's oriented as so, and the way it's positioned, that means we're going to install it right here. I cut the belt too short and I barely made it. So if you want to give it a little extra, please do whenever you cut yours. Okay, now we're going to run it in here. And that, let's see, that's how it's supposed to look like, and that's how it's supposed to look like. We're going to attach these bad boys with a little tool that came with it. I wish they had pre-cut the length of the belt. That would have reduced the chance of making a mistake. Also, one of these tools, the thinner one, for the stop sensors, the end sensors, had also stripped. So I had to use my own tool. For the next thing, we have to install a filament holder extruder motor. So this holds that big round filament and feed pipe one piece. We have that here. It's already attached. I think that's it. And we have the extruder motor over there. And for this to happen, we're going to use the baggie with S5 label, as it is labeled there as well. And for the filament holder, we obviously have the holder itself. And then for that, we're going to use the screws that came with it. Gotta leave it a little bit loose, like that. One more. Okay, that's good. And according to the picture, it looks like a good spot for it is right about here. But then again, I think that'll be too low. Let's see here. Filament holder. Here's our filament. So I suppose it would be a good idea to kind of measure this roughly. So it kind of hold like this. I don't want it to drag on the floor, so I'm just going to put it like up here. I'm not going to go too crazy on this, just enough so it holds it. We're going to go for the extruder motor. Extruder motor. And that's going to be, if you look at it like that, so it's going to be about 35 centimeters above the ground, which is, I'll have to figure that out actually, which should be fairly easy since now I know what this ruler is for. These are good old centimeters. So we need 35. So this is about 20, and we need 15 more, which is right here. 35 centimeters off the ground, which is actually conveniently labeled right here, so it's going to be easy for me to kind of mount it there. And then we're going to use the same type of screws, and we're going to position it so it's facing this away. Okay, Lucy. Again, it has to be higher than 35 centimeters. We know it's there, so we're going to put it here. Okay. There's actually some weight to this motor, just so you know. There's a bit of weight to it. I'm not left-handed, so I'm going to try to hold it like that while I tighten it. That's that, and I'm assuming this goes right here like so. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So it does go down like that. Screws on there. Install the feed pipe connector into the extruder set. Insert the feed pipe into the feed pipe connector shown by the arrows. Okay, and that's that, I guess. That's pretty straightforward. From this side, that's what the picture showed me. So the next part is related to mounting the power supply, which for this we're going to use the Baggy S-6 as indicated. So we're going to need power supply, which we have here. Power supply bracket that came with one great thing about these instructions, that they all come with the same type of screws, which really helps a lot. These instructions do indicate that the position of the mounting should be, of the mounting bracket, should be 12 centimeters in height. So roughly here. It's supposed to go right there. That's where the end of it is supposed to connect. Okay, then we're going to insert it into our aluminum post. Have to move around a little bit. Okay, so it's supposed to go like that. Okay. So for this, it's a bit awkward. Actually, I found it might be a good idea to just attach the screw on like this to the tool first, so it doesn't fall out as easily. It helps you kind of navigate because it is kind of narrow here. And just take your time. Now we're doing the wiring. It does come with a diagram, as you can see here, and I'm just gonna follow that and start to plug things in. So yeah, they're all labeled, which is pretty amazing. I do appreciate that. This is where the extruder motor goes. This is 1, 2, 3 motors there on the bottom here, and the extruder motor is labeled here. And it says, actually it's labeled E0, and this is labeled E0 as well. I know you can't see it, but trust me, it's labeled there. So all I gotta do is just plug it in and then kind of support the board from underneath with your finger like so, because there's no plate to hold it back. Kind of double check these other motors to make sure they're connected. This one's a bit loose, so I pushed it back down, maybe from me just messing around with the whole thing. The LCD connectors, labeled clearly EXP1, EXP2, and those go right here, and it's labeled EXP1 and EXP2. I'm sorry, EXP2 and EXP1. It's better extra length than for it to be too short. So I found a really good way to figure which axis motor is which. If you look at the diagram here, you can see that motor X axis is attached to here, which is right there. So all I gotta do is just match that and follow that. And then if, follow that, so in the end this would be the end stop for that, for the X one. Same thing, motor Y motor is connected here, and I just follow that, and that's the end stop for that. Very simple. So here we go. This is the X motor, similar to PC motherboard. It just kind of plugs in. I don't know if you guys build your own computers or not, but the front panel is kind of like this. Same type of jumpers. Yeah. And the level module goes next to it here, which is this thing that came. So basically it just levels, it does a calibration for you whenever you connect it. So this is where that, but it's attached to the nozzle, and then there's another wire that comes to it. Anyways. Okay, I think I came across an issue where these are a little too thick to actually insert underneath, so I'm just going to flatten them a little bit. You can see there's solder on it, which is fine. It's just that it made it really thick. So all I'm going to do is just use these pliers just to flatten it a little bit. So in the end, what I ended up using is this tool that came with it. I clipped the ends off that had solder on them, and then I stripped the wires so I can have exposed wire, and then I'm going to try now. Hopefully I have an easier time of installing these. So what I did with these wires,
It's not something I can recommend you guys do, because I'm not sure what the risk is 100%. I'm not electrical engineer or anything like that, so I'm just gonna do it this way because it's about the only way I can do it. So I'm taking a risk here. You don't have to if you don't want to, but for me this is the only way to connect these wires. So well, that's that. I'll double check to make sure there's no connection, like hair splitting, anything like that. Just kind of touching each other, just to kind of double check that. But hopefully I don't have to do that with these other ones. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. All right, let's get to the other ones. Okay. So the next thing up is the wires from the head up here, that print head. This should be fairly straightforward. They're all labeled. It says fan 2. And I'm just going to follow that, which shouldn't take too long to complete. I'm still going to refer to my diagram just to double check. So the fan 2 is supposed to go here, fan number 2, and it is labeled, so that kind of saves me time. So here we go. Fan 2 goes to where it's labeled fan 2. Simple plug in. Okay. Where's our fan 0? Here's our fan 0, and fan 0 is the very first one here. Going to plug that in. This is the heater element, which connects here, and I will connect that here in a second. So is T1. T0 through T3 is labeled there, so I'm going to plug in my T0. Okay. I mean, as long as you take your time and follow the instructions, it's no big deal. Is that the last? That's the last of what's coming from the head. This one here says Z negative. And that goes to right here, actually. Remember we left an empty spot there for that. Where's it at? Z negative here. So it's this one here. That's where that goes. Remember when I talked about a leveling module or calibrator, which is this? This was basically going to extend up, and that way I can connect it on the top of the head itself, so it just plugs in, right? So this is the extension of that, so it's sort of like an extension cable to that. Okay, that's all installed. Now I'm just gonna let this, I guess, just kind of hang here. I don't know, I'll have to figure out what to do with this wire here. I may have to like attach it like sideways here somewhere, but I do need to attach this heater wire, which is for the head. Since this is just a heating element, doesn't matter whether it's ground or positive, so that basically just goes in and it's just going to create a short. Basically that's what happens, and it gives it you know, it heats up. That's what happens when you short connections. Okay. Oh yeah, be gentle on these. Needless to say, right? Okay, and I'll do wiring management. You guys can do that on your own too if you are following along. The last thing left is to attach the plate, which this is. So it says warning, still hot after it goes out. So you can see why it's attached like that, and this goes to the other connection here, and then the other part goes into the, let's see here, T1. Which is over here right behind this one. You see the solder action there? It actually stuck together. That's not good. Okay, I have to separate those. Hopefully I don't have to do the same thing on these as I did to the other ones. Let me just kind of double check things here. But notice how the red is actually on this side and the red is on this side here. It's like they're flipped on this connection here. And I'm pretty certain that I put it on there correctly. Yeah. See, even this element here says heat, you know, heat 1, heat 2, or plus and minus. It's whatever. Anyways, so the last wire I need to connect for the whole project, I believe, is T1, similar to T0, which I believe stands for temperature. Goes right next to it. Here's a fully assembled printer. All I gotta do is just run the filament through the tube, and then I'm gonna start to do some test printing. The only thing that's left is to make sure that you do the cable management properly. Make sure you run things underneath. Here's a tip: if your heated plate doesn't fall in just like that without any obstruction, that means you did a pretty decent job. So make sure nothing touches the edges of it, because only the bottom part of it is protected by a cloth type of material that prevents, you know, the electronics from being, you know, cooked. So make sure nothing is touching the plate. Make sure that it just sits down like so. I think that this goes over it as well. So I'm gonna see if I can. Does it just sit there like that? I guess.
So as you can see, I have it all set up over there in the corner next to my regular printer. But just real quick, I did make a mistake. The instructions for the end stops here, if you look at the picture here, are actually wrong. So make sure that you do follow this actually configuration. Because I looked at this and my y-axis kept ramming into the rail over there. So just be careful, make sure you do follow this instruction if you happen to get the same printer as me, which there is a link in description to below. So the next thing I'm going to do is add this auto calibrating tool, which I will show you how to do. It's really easy, it's magnetic, and it just plugs in. So I'm going to plug this in, it's right here, simple plug. And then it just snaps below like so. That's connected. Now we're going to switch down to the LCD. With the LCD turned on, all you got to do is press this button in once, go to auto level bed, which is the second one down, and then measure the Z position. Activate that. Now the printer is going to basically go all the way down, and it's going to measure the Z position. Which is not the same as measuring the bed level, just so you know. The bed level is the next option, but it's done the same way. So basically that's how you do it, guys. When it comes to these type of printers, this specific model is fairly easy to put together for a beginner, but expect to troubleshoot printing issues with these type of computers. So if you think you're going to be able to print right away without any problems, then it's not the case for the most part, because you have to update the firmware. Sometimes it doesn't print properly, sometimes it doesn't form the proper bed for it or anything like that. So just kind of take your time, and I would not suggest buying this if you don't have the patience to do so. I hope you liked my video. Thank you so much for watching. Please share with friends and family, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Have a good day. Bye bye.